Hello, thank you for joining us for our webinar, Draining Your Budget, the Real Cost of Delivered Drinking Water. I'm your host, Megan Backus. Today we are going to discuss the expensive practice of drinking water delivery, from the cost to have the water delivered, to the hidden cost of bottled water in the workplace, and finally to the cost bottled water have on our environment. Our expert today is Jeff Doughty. Jeff has over 25 years of experience in the filtered drinking water industry and is currently the Vice President of National Accounts at Quench. Over the next 15 minutes or so, Jeff will guide you through our discussion, and then we will have a brief question and answer period. I'm very pleased to introduce Jeff.
Thank you very much, Megan. I'm ready when you are.
Great, let's begin.
Okay. Office drinking water in the United States is currently provided in 3 different and distinct ways. As you can see from the pie chart, the largest segment is the traditional 5-gallon bottled water coolers with over 50% market share in the U.S. Single-serve cases of bottled water is the second largest segment, and they're typically delivered in half-liter or 16.9-ounce bottles and cases. And the third segment is the one we're really discussing today, and the fastest growing segment, which are filtered drinking water coolers. As you can see, currently over 3/4 of all office drinking water is still delivered in either 5-gallon or single-serve plastic bottles. A practice that's both really expensive for office consumers and also expensive for the environment. Now, if all of you could please take a minute to complete the survey on your screen about how your office or workplace currently provides drinking water for your employees and guests. The options are traditional 5-gallon plastic water bottles, single-serve cases, drinking water fountains or ordinary tap water out of the faucet, filtered drinking water coolers, or really none of the above or other. And we'll pause here while people place their votes. Okay, very good. It looks like most of the votes are placed as of now, and it looks like a vast majority, actually a vast majority are currently using either 5-gallon jugs or single-serve bottled water, and a few stragglers that are also using filtered water coolers. So this is a good representation of the panel that we just showed. So we'll move on to the next slide, which is bottled water is expensive. The processing and delivering of bottled drinking water is very heavy, and it's a very expensive system. As the chart on the left shows, ounce per ounce, bottled water in 5-gallon containers is nearly identical to the cost of purchased crude oil at 1.9 cents per ounce for oil and 1.4 cents per ounce for bottled water in the 5-gallon jugs. And if you look further to the left, single-serve bottles are 3 times more expensive per ounce than crude oil. When you consider that crude oil requires tremendous effort and expense to build oil rigs and drill the oil and pump it and move it in pipelines and trucks and ships, it's really difficult to imagine that delivering bottled water would be more expensive than doing that. And the bottom line is that the cost of filtering and delivering bottled water coolers does not need to cost more than crude oil or gasoline. And also don't overlook the fact that single-serve bottled water is nearly as expensive as brewed beer at 6 cents an ounce. The tap water, on the other hand, it's remarkably inexpensive. It costs 1 penny for every 20 gallons of tap water. Bottled water is 2,000 times more expensive than the highly regarded tap water we have in the United States. And as we've seen, single-serve water costs about 6 cents per ounce, but tap water costs less than 1/1000th of a cent for every ounce. That means that a single gallon of tap water costs less than a single ounce of bottled water. And tap water is so expensive, it's so inexpensive that you can barely even see it on this chart. So in our second and last survey of the day, let's take a look at what each of you are currently spending on drinking water every month or every year. So take a minute to fill out the on-screen survey about your current water spending. And the question is, if your workplace currently has drinking water delivered, on average, how much do you spend in a typical year or a typical month? And if you aren't sure, make a guess for the purposes of our survey. So the choices are less than $360 per year, $360 to $500, $500 to $1,000 per year, and then the larger users at more than $1,000. So we'll take a minute for the votes to come in. So we have a good spread of spending across the board here, and it looks like we have some that are below $360 and even some that are above $1,000 per year, and some all fall in the middle. So it's an even spread, which is kind of typical of what we see across the country in bottled water spending. So why is bottled water so expensive? Simply put, we're really not just paying for the water that's inside the bottle. About 90% of the costs of bottled water go to other things above and beyond just filtering and putting that water in the bottle. Things like the cost of operating a large bottling plant, the plastics and the packaging, shipping and delivery costs, marketing and public relations budgets, and don't forget about the healthy profits that go to the bottled water conglomerates. And advertising budgets alone in the bottled water industry can run over $150 million per year, and all of that cost is passed along to you as the consumers for every bottle that you buy. So in addition to the obvious monetary costs of bottled water, there are also many significant hidden costs of using bottled water delivery services. Things like the wasted time it takes for your employees to handle the logistics and the ordering and the receiving of bottled water every couple of weeks, and then those costs that are associated with those lost employee hours. It also takes lots of time to move the bottles around and change them when they run out. And then the full and empty bottles take up valuable office space, sometimes even an entire closet or storage rooms filled with full and empty bottles. And some organizations with security concerns also have the additional hidden costs of using their employees' valuable time to escort the delivery people around their offices to the coolers and the storage closets. There are also some physical issues related to bottled water delivery and storage, in addition to the physical issues. What about the additional costs of the billing and the invoicing and the reconciling the monthly invoices, making sure that you pay the correct amount every month, the variable amount every month depending on how much you've used. And conversely, the direct costs and the indirect costs of using bottled water are actually pretty small when you consider how much the bottled water industry is really affecting our environment. So we shouldn't forget about the dramatic cost that the bottled water industry is having on our planet. The chemical production of plastics in the bottled water industry uses 3 good liters of water for every 1 liter of water that's actually bottled. And this 3 liters of water is not used for drinking. It goes right down the drain. Transporting the plastic bottles generates over 2.5 million tons of carbon dioxide. That goes directly into our atmosphere, which is the equivalent of the tailpipe emissions of over 520,000 cars for an entire year. 80% of single-serve bottled water bottles used in the U.S. are not recycled, much to the surprise of many people. They're actually 80% are thrown in the trash, and many of them make their way into our oceans and other waterways. Unfortunately, the plastic that goes into the ocean doesn't biodegrade, but it photodegrades by breaking down into smaller and smaller pieces, but it never actually disappears from the water. And the Ocean Conservancy did a study, and they estimate that every square mile of ocean has over 46,000 pieces of floating plastic from water bottles and other plastic containers. And then due to the wind and the other water currents, this floating plastic often circles together and creates, in one instance, the Great Pacific Gyre garbage patch that's been exposed on 60 Minutes and other shows like that. To create the 1 million tons of plastics used in the manufacturing of water bottles in the U.S., they use 17 million barrels of oil to make that plastic. And the cost to the bottled water producers for that oil is over $1.7 billion per year, which is another expense that's passed directly along to bottled water consumers through the higher prices of that drinking water. So, what's the solution to the costly and environmentally unfriendly practices of having drinking water delivered in your homes and offices? The answer is install a high-quality filtered drinking water cooler. A filtered drinking water cooler, also sometimes known as a point-of-use cooler or a bottled cooler, is like having a miniature bottled water purification plant right inside your office. It uses the existing building water, tap water supply, and which we discussed, it costs about 1 penny for every 20 gallons. And then the machine filters it and chills it and heats it, and then provides an endless supply of good-tasting water for all the employees and the guests. So the delivery and installation of a Quench cooler takes usually about an hour, and the cooler then filters out odors, sediment, lead, bacteria, and the other microorganisms that are commonly found in ordinary tap water. And simply put, a Quench cooler provides an unlimited supply of clean, great-tasting water and is very healthy without all the plastic. So filtered coolers are clearly more cost-effective than delivered bottled water. And unlike with bottled coolers, the more you drink, the more money you save. Filtered coolers eliminate those hidden costs of employee time and the severe environmental impacts that we talked about of the bottled water industry. And then the flat monthly rental rate includes all of the maintenance, filter changes, services, so that the invoicing and the monthly bill payments become super simple, easy, and always very predictable. And then when you look at the graph on the screen, you can see that filtered water coolers start to show significant cost savings when the usage hits right around 5 bottles per cooler per month. So the question is, how do you choose a good filtered water cooler company for your office? And there are 3 indicators that we would recommend when choosing a filtered water cooler provider. First, make sure the one you choose is very experienced and they're truly drinking water experts. Local water conditions and contaminants vary from city to city across the United States, and the filtration technology inside your cooler should match up directly with the local water conditions. Secondly, make sure you pick a provider that has a broad product line. Water needs of a small office are very different from the water needs of a large hospital or distribution center or warehouse. And then again, it's very different from the water needs of a college campus or university. So also, some organizations need countertop coolers, some need floor standing coolers, some need very high capacity machines, others need ice and water for their offices, some prefer sparkling water, and some lastly require ultra pure water for medical offices and dental offices as well. And finally, you may want to choose a provider with true nationwide capabilities. A good filtered water cooler company will have the size and the service capabilities to provide different machines for all different applications, different filtration types to fit every need, and then also be able to service many different locations throughout the U.S. So who is Quench? For almost 20 years, Quench is focused exclusively on providing the highest quality drinking water across North America using our filtered water cooler systems. We currently service over 27,000 customers across the U.S., including 1/3 of the Fortune 500 list. And our nationwide scale means that we can offer better prices, the largest cooler selection, the best technologies for creating clean drinking water, and the most responsive customer service department in the industry. And in addition to the largest selection of filtration and purification technologies and coolers, we also have specialty products like sparkling water, as well as a range of different sized ice and water machines for office use. Our service technicians undergo rigorous training at our own Quench Technician University, where they learn advanced water technologies and installation techniques, including how to install machines without disrupting the office or the look of the office. So if you're looking for more resources to expand your knowledge and about the benefits of switching to filtered water coolers, we have several convenient places to go, and they can all be easily accessed. Once this webinar is concluded, you can download the webinar and have all these at your fingertips. The water, on our website, the water cooler savings calculator is at www.quenchonline.com. We have a Quench white paper. It's titled Cutting Costs While Increasing Sustainability and Wellness by Upgrading to Filtered Water Coolers. I also recommend Why is Bottled Water So Expensive from Atlantic Magazine's Economics in Plain English video series. And also, Emily Reformat wrote an unbiased article called Water Coolers, What Defines Quality? And it's a great resource which sort of honestly compares the advantages and disadvantages of both 5-gallon coolers as well as filtered drinking water coolers. And then lastly, the article, The True Cost of Bottled Water by Jeff Doughty, that also outlines the cost savings of switching to a filtered cooler.
Thank you, Jeff. We would like to now open the floor to any questions you have about Quench, our water coolers, or the cost of providing drinking water. To submit a question, please use the chat box feature on your screen, or you can tweet us at QuenchWater on Twitter. Please remember to use the hashtag WaterCost. If we were unable to answer all the questions today, we will share any additional answers and questions when the webinar becomes available for download. So our first question today is, how are filtered water coolers installed? And then, can they be installed in a spot that isn't adjacent to a water source?
All right, good. I'll take that one. That's a very good question and a very common question. And the answer is Quench has some very unique capabilities on their installation team. We talked about Quench University for Technicians, and we teach our technicians and give them unique capabilities to install coolers nearly anywhere that the customer desires. They don't have to be near a water source, and in many situations they're as many as 500 feet or more away from the closest water source. In large production facilities, distribution centers, warehouses, sometimes we run many miles of tubing throughout the building to get the coolers exactly where the customers desire. So that is not a hindrance to install a Quench cooler at all.
All right, and looks like our next question is, what do Quench filters take out of tap water?
Another very good question. We could really break this down into kind of two segments. Quench has multiple filtration technologies available, but the vast majority of them break into two categories. And the first one is our Quench carbon and mechanical filtration units that handle about 90% of the U.S. water. And those systems will remove virtually everything that you find in typical tap water. The lead, chlorine, chloramines, other things that are normally found in tap water. When we need to escalate the capabilities of the filtration system, for example, if we're connecting to a well, or we're connecting to an area of the country that has more problematic water, we use reverse osmosis filtration. And reverse osmosis is a slightly higher level of filtration, which again removes all of those things we talked about earlier that are found in tap water, plus some higher capabilities for removing additional lead, higher levels of total dissolved solids, and other things, sulfur and other things that customers would be worried about on a well.
All right, let's see, next question. How can I find out what my cost savings will be for my organization?
That's another good one, and pretty simple to answer, and really it's two different ways it can be accomplished. One is you can go on our website, www.quenchonline.com, and use our online calculator, type in your usage and your current spending, and it'll generate a cost savings analysis for you. And an even simpler way is to talk to one of our Quench representatives, and by calling our number, you'll be shown at the end, and they can walk you through the cost savings and give you recommendations on which coolers would create the most impactful cost savings.
Okay, looks like we have another question. Is it unsafe for us to drink our tap water? My boss says it's fine.
It's not unsafe. Well, typically in the United States, it's not unsafe to drink tap water. The main issues that we incur in our world of water is that the water doesn't taste as great as people want it to. It doesn't taste as good as bottled water. It has been deemed safe by your local water authority. but there are still things that are allowed in the water by the EPA that you may want to remove. There are levels of lead and there are levels of other contaminants that the EPA will deem safe to drink, but we feel should be removed by a Quench water system.
Is Quench really that much better than bottled water is our next question.
That's a good one. It's a little bit redundant based on our proposal, but for typically 4 different reasons, people switch to Quench from a bottled water delivery service. And the first one is almost always cost savings. They want to save 20 to 50% on their current spending, and Quench accomplishes that. The next 3, in different order, depending on the customer, are things like convenience. The bottles, the deliveries, the storage, the lifting, the paying of the variable bills, those sorts of things add up to a convenience advantage for Quench. Thirdly, we hear that the bacteria growth issues and concerns within the bottled water cooler are really important to our customers in the end. Bottled water coolers should be cleaned and sanitized with bleach once a month, and typically that's not accomplished or that's not done by the office users. And Quench has technology built into our machines that eliminate the growth of bacteria in the filtered drinking water tanks. And then the last one are the environmental advantages that we talked about earlier. Significant environmental advantages of filtered Quench water coolers versus the plastics and the deliveries and the gas consumption and the oil consumption of bottled water.
Thanks, Jeff. We have another question. It's from a previous asker. I see the tap water is brown sometimes. What will happen with the filter?
Depending on how thick the brownness is of your water, the filter will remove it. And if it's very brown, we may want to get a water test, a water analysis on that before we recommend which filtration type would be best. But typically it's not a major issue. You don't want to drink it as is, but it's typically very easy to filter out with one of our 2 recommended filtration types. It may lead to slightly shorter lifespan on those filters, but Quench filters automatically turn themselves off and stop flowing water when they reach the end of their useful life. That useful life may be slightly shortened if you have brown water versus clear water.
And I think this would be a great time to discuss how often do normal customers, Jeff, need to change their filter?
That's a good one. Our typical service frequency is annual, meaning our filters and service and maintenance requirements are geared towards every 12 months. And there are some customers that ask for or require it more frequently on a 6-month basis if your water consumption is very, very high. But the vast majority of our customers receive annual service, some of them 6 months, and some of them can be customized by the customer.
And we have time for one more question. Let's see. Will switching to Quench increase water or electric bills?
That's always a fun one. We'll talk about water first. And again, the cost of 20 gallons of tap water is 1 single penny. So if you use 5 gallons a month, or let's say have 5 bottles a month, we're still talking about under 2 cents for increasing your water bill. So the water bill is never significantly impacted by adding one of our coolers. Electricity-wise, bottled water coolers and the filtered water coolers use relatively the same amount of electricity. Filtered coolers do not use more electricity than bottled coolers. So if you have a cooler today and you install a Quench filtered cooler, your electricity bill won't change. If you don't currently have a cooler and you add a Quench cooler, the typical electric usage of a Quench cooler is about $3.50 per month in electricity.
Great. And like I said, that is all the time we have for today. I would like to thank you all for your participation. We hope that we have enlightened you on the world of office drinking water. We will include any additional questions and their responding answers when the webinar is available for download, probably within the next 24 hours or so. As you leave the webinar, there will be a short survey, so please take the 1 to 2 minutes to complete it. And thank you.
Thank you all for coming, and thank you, Megan.
If you would like to learn more about Quench or how we can help your organization, please visit our website at www.quenchonline.com or call one of our water experts at 888-877-0561. Thank you for your time and have a great day.